Hey, well, good morning, guys. Welcome to Wake Up Well. Happy Tuesday. Today we are looking at a really simple short verse. It's 1 Chronicles 16, verse 11. And it says this: Look to the Lord and his strength, and seek his face always. I wonder if you're being honest with yourself, if I'm being honest with myself, what are we focused on the most in life? If we were to take a snapshot throughout the day, what would our focus be on the most? Because here's a reality: whatever we look at the most, whatever we listen to the most, whatever we surround ourselves with the most, is what we'll end up going towards and what we'll end up looking like. You know, what we focus on, what we look to, is what we go towards. I mean, just really practically, I'm a sucker at this. I can't walk in a straight line in one direction whilst looking off somewhere else. I'd often be doing this. You know, my mates when I was at uni would tease me for this. I'd be walking along with my friend and we'd be looking at each other whilst we were having this conversation, and I'd start walking off in the direction. I'd fall off pavements, I'd walk into obstacles, like into lampposts all the time. What we look at and what we look towards is what we go towards. It's why horses are given blinkers, isn't it? Because we know that if we want to go lead the horse in a certain direction, we drive their head and move their head in a certain direction, and that's the way that they go. And we put the blinkers on so that they don't get distracted by the peripheral and get distracted by things that we don't want to go towards. And the thing is, and the reality is the closer we go towards something, the more it becomes our greatest perceived reality. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's the biggest thing, but it's what we perceive to be the biggest thing. It's, for example, you remember back in 2000, for those of you who remember, we had the solar eclipse. I can remember seeing Concorde flying over, and we all had those cool retro glasses that sort of supposedly helped block out the rays of the sun as we looked up. The sun got blocked out by the moon. The moon, we know, is smaller than the sun, but it's closer. And as it came past the sun in the right position, it blocked out the sun because it was closer. Friends, God is the biggest, the best that we could ever imagine. But the reality is if we allow other smaller things to be that which we get closer to, it can blind us to the greater reality behind. The smaller, the closer we get, can become our perceived greatest reality. So a question is, what are we looking at the most? What are we seeking after the most? What are we going towards? Because that will become our greatest perceived reality. Are we looking at the Lord and his strength, and are we seeking after his face? Because when we do, it will change everything. So I have some simple questions just in response to that. Who are we surrounding ourselves with who point us to Jesus, who encourage us to keep walking towards him? I love seeing the life of King David in the Bible. In 1 Samuel 23, we see David finds himself in a really sticky, difficult situation. Verse 15 and 16 says this: While David was at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him to find strength in God. Friends, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you intentionally investing in relationship with, who you know when you get around them will point you to Jesus? Take time to invest in those kind of people, because my goodness, when you find yourself in difficult situations, they're the ones who will point you to the Lord to find strength in him. Secondly, we need to invest in time at looking at and seeking after Jesus for ourselves. We see David had Jonathan who helped him find strength, but we also find him in situations where he wasn't surrounded by anyone else. 1 Samuel 30, verse 6, we see David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Guys, when we cultivate a lifestyle of intentionally looking at Jesus, and when we seek after him intentionally, it's going to become natural to us, so that when we hit crisis point and we really need to know the strength of God, it's not a hard slog for us, but it's become a natural part of who we are. So I want to encourage you today, look to the Lord, find his strength, seek his face always. Practically invest in people who will point you to Jesus, and daily invest in cultivating a lifestyle of looking to him, because what we look at, we go towards, and what we go towards becomes our perceived greatest reality. And King Jesus is the greatest, so why would we want to allow anything else to take that place when we can find strength and hope and life in him and seeing the beauty of his face? I bless you today to take time to be with him.